Ulster somehow fumbled their way to a win against the Lions. My name is Mark. Let's talk rugby. Not the best performance by Ulster tonight. They actually were pretty dire at times, and they'll probably play a lot better than this season and lose a few games. But they lose Michael Lowry. He was a late withdrawal just before kickoff. And it's the Lions that actually start well. The couple of good lineouts from them gets them into the Ulster 22. Then go to carries close to the ruck. Initially, they're making good ground, but Ulster eventually force a knock on. Lions then come again after Ulster. They kick the ball out in the full after carrying it back into the 22. This time, Ruben Crothers turns it over for Ulster, and they're able to relieve the pressure a little bit, but it's all the Lions in the first kind of 5 minutes or so. And, Ulster, they've been the joint worst lineout in the opening 4 rounds at 78%, along with the Stormers. I've got a full video on the lineout stats if you want to have a look at that on the channel as well. It covers the first 4 rounds. But the first throw in from Ulster of the night, of course, is crooked and gives a scrum to the Lions in the Ulster 22. And yeah, Ulster just inviting pressure at the minute. Ulster, though, they do defend well and they force a knock on. Lions, I feel, need a little bit more variation in their attack. They keep going like close to the ruck, and it's obviously was something that they worked on maybe in training and that they thought they'd get a bit of joy out of, but it hasn't been working, and they just need to mix it up a little. And that's what they do, really. Van der Merwe, he makes a break down the left, gets the Lions back into that 22. They then go back to the forwards, carrying hard, they're sucking in the defence. Then Nohamba puts in a sweet crossfield kick for Creel. He goes over in the opposite corner, and then Nohamba converts from the touchline to make it 7-0. Ulster then get a penalty for the Lions not rolling away. They decide to go to the corner, but Lions sack them all pretty much immediately. Ball squirts at the back. Ulster scramble and manage to retain possession. They go through the phases, but there's a combination of really aggressive defence from the Lions and just a complete lack of accuracy from Ulster, and they just get driven back. Eventually they knock it on, and Lions then punt the ball downfield. But Ulster, yeah, it wasn't just like there was a lot of handling errors from the side, but also, looking after the ball at the ruck. There were so many times where the ball was squirting out of the ruck, and they didn't know where the ball was, and it just really poor, from them in terms of just getting control of things. Nobody seemed to be able to do it for them at all. But we then have an Ulster error. Almost leads to another try for the Lions. There's a mix-up between McCluskey and Flannery. Ball goes to the deck, and then it squirts towards the Ulster line. There's a foot race. The Lions win that, slide over, but then the try is chalked off because Lowe knocked on in that scramble around the middle of the pitch, around about halfway. And basically, yeah, he knocked it on, and that's why it went towards the Ulster line. We then have a bit of momentum finally for Ulster. Scott Wilson makes a break into the Lions 22. Brilliant carry from him. And, I think he's a great addition to the Ulster team as well. Ulster, they can't capitalise on that, but they do have a penalty. They decide to go to the corner and feel like they need a score to settle them down at this stage. But then they get pinged for leaving the line out early, and it's a free to the Lions, and it's a chance wasted. And, it was very frustrating watching them because you have, the conditions obviously played a part in terms of knock-ons and stuff like that, but lack of kind of focus and accuracy for them as well, certain times just kind of compounded that. Then we get Hume gets him back on the front foot. McCann then, he takes the ball off him and brings it to within a few metres short of the line. And then Ulster finally put a little bit of disguise on their attack close to the line. We have a nice wrap. McCluskey is involved in there, and then Hume goes over to score. Doak converts the square up at 7-all, and that was easily, I think, Ulster's best move of the night. And then the commentary team, I don't know where they got the commentary team. I think I was watching it on URC TV, but I believe it was BBC Northern Ireland or something commentary team. But they were saying, oh, the Lions now, they look leggy and they look disheartened because of that, conceding, and they've been on a long tour and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't see any of that. I think it was just wishful thinking from them. But Lions, they basically shove their words down their throat because they work it up the Ulster line from the back of a scrum. Van Wyck with a good carry there. I think the scrum was because Ulster tried to dink over the top and then Stockdale knocked it on. And it looked, again, maybe the conditions, but it looked like an easy take for him. But yeah, Van Wyck with a good carry gets him into the 22. They then work up to the line. They're pounding away at the line, and then Sergio forces his way over to score. Nohamba converts, and it's 14-7. And Lions definitely looking the better team at this stage. They're making the most of the chances that they're getting, and on the defense they're being aggressive, and with ball in hand they're consistently looking the better of the two teams. Ulster, they're not looking after the ball, and we then have a jersey pull, allows Nohamba to kick up the line from a penalty. So basically, it was one of these ones where the ball just keeps squirting out everywhere because Ulster aren't looking after it. And then to prevent a break, somebody pulls someone back by the jersey. Lions then from that line out to claim it to tail, they maul it into the 22. Then back to Nohamba. He goes to the drop a goal, but it's just a scruffy effort from him. Just about barely clears the defence in front of him, let alone going over the bar. And then Ulster are able to clear from that. And that's pretty much half time. 14-7, Lions lead. And Ulster have been very, very poor in that first half. Honestly, they didn't actually get that much better in the second half. It's just that they managed to get a few scores. But they do start the second half well, at least. They drive a maul from the line out in the 22. Herring then breaks off, and then they go through the hands, and to get it over to the left, Stockdale goes over in the corner. Doak converts from out on the touchline to make it 14-all and square up. Really good kick from him to do that, kind of matching Nohamba's one from earlier. Ulster then offside the restart, and it was one of these where box kick is put up and it just goes straight up and down, so pretty much everybody is offside because of it. Nobody's retreating. Nohamba then pops the penalty over to put the Lions back in front, 17-14. Then Ulster then get a penalty from this restart. They go to the corner from that, set up the maul, and it's probably their best maul of the night. Makes really good progress. Herring breaks off the back and he goes over to score. Doak converts and Ulster hit the front, 21-17, and that's the first time they've been in front for the whole game. We then have a very scrappy period of play, and compared to what had gone before, I mean really scrappy. And then Ulster win a scrum penalty. Marty Moore getting lots of pats on the back after that one. They then kick the penalty into 22, and again line out is not straight, and that line out has been so poor this season, and there's no real signs of it improving at all in this game, and they're going to have to sort it out because there's one thing in terms of being able to kind of compensate for a poor set piece, and they did that a little bit tonight, but you can't do that for an entire season, and they certainly can't do that if they get into the knockout stages. If it's as poor as that, it's going to cost them a quarter final or wherever. I'm sure they will sort it out at some point, but right now it seems like they've got a lot of work to do to fix it. But also then get pinged for holding on. Nohamba decides to kick for goal from just over 40 meters out. He gets under it a little bit and it doesn't have the distance and kind of drifts to the right as well. Ulster then are able to punt that clear. Ulster feel they need another score to end this as a contest, but it's kind of hard to see where that's going to come from because they got no platform from their set piece, and errors in possession means that, probably their best hope is going to be a Lions mistake, and Lions do actually provide that shortly after. I've actually thought about that. Lions, they kick it out on the full, and then Ulster then win a penalty for Lions going off their feet. Cooney strokes over the penalty for 24-17, meaning that, probably the Lions' best they can hope for from the game now was a draw. Ulster, though, get penalised at the breakdown and trying to give them every chance really to get that draw. Lions kick the penalty to 22, but then Ulster managed to nick the line out. And Ulster's defensive line out hasn't been that bad this season. It's just they're on their own ball. They really have struggled. Ulster then win a scrum penalty. They go up the line. They maul it well. Cooney then chips through and Hendrickson carries it back over his own line. It's a scrum 5 to Ulster. Ulster then win a penalty at the scrum. They decide to tap and Herring then gets pinged for hands in the ruck, and it's a real let off for the Lions. Ulster thought that they were maybe going to go in for the bonus point try, but that was basically the last time we see Ulster in attack in the game. They then concede another penalty in their own half, and the Lions go up the line right to the edge of the 22. Ulster sack them all from the line out. Lions still have the ball though, and Ulster though holding on the edge of that 22. Lions finally surge forward, but they spill the ball forward. Ulster get the hands on the ball. They hold on to it then. They're running the clock down and get the ball off the field. And honestly, this is probably the worst winning performance of the season so far. I know, Ulster fans, if you're watching this, probably thinking I'm really kind of dumping on Ulster, but if you're an honest Ulster fan, you have to say that really was a very poor performance, but it's a win. And at this point of the season, it's 4 points on the board, and nobody's going to take that away from them either. Losing bonus point from the Lions is not bad either. I think their efforts in the game definitely deserve that. Let's have a look at some of the stats from the game. So we're going to start, as always, with attack. So tries was 3 tries to 2 in Ulster's favour. As I said, they had basically one chance to get the bonus point try, and they kind of made a mess of it. Possession then 53% to 47% in favour of Ulster. Clean breaks 3 each. It wasn't really a game for clean breaks. Defenders beaten 12-9. Offloads 5 by Ulster, 7 from the Lions, but nothing really of any note in terms of that. Defence then, territory 46% for Ulster, 54% for the Lions. Lions really were kind of bossing the territory without really making that much of it. They did get their scores in the game, which were decent, but there was a lot of times when they were holding on to the ball but really going nowhere, whereas Ulster couldn't hold on to the ball at all for long stretches. Number of tackles then, 88 for Ulster, 103 for the Lions. Missed tackles, 9 from Ulster, 12 from the Lions. That means that Ulster at 91% tackle success and the Lions at 90%. So 2 very good performances and defensively. And defenses really were on top here. And conditions going to help with that as well, in that, a decent bang in the tackle and you're almost certainly dislodging the ball and causing a knock on. Turnovers 1 then, 6 each. Kicking 2 kicks retained by Ulster, 3 from the Lions. Kicking success, it's always 0-0. Please get rid of that stat or make it relevant some way. Penalties then, 5 conceded by Ulster, 8 from the Lions. And penalties did kind of play a big part in this as well. The that penalty for Cooney at the end, just to make it a 7-point game, really did give Ulster that cushion that they needed. I think because if the Lions were pushing for a win towards the end, it could have been something very different in there. But I don't know why URC, why don't you have set piece stats? Because I'd love to see the line-out stats, because Ulster seem to be terrible, but I always love to see the numbers to confirm, because sometimes your perception of things is wrong. I don't think my perception of Ulster's line-out is wrong, but I'd still love to see the stats, whether they were above or below 78% for this one. And then the scrum was better for Ulster, but the fact that, scrum and line out kind of go together, because they'd win a penalty at the scrum and kick it up the line, and then something would go wrong at the line out was kind of the problem for them, was that even if the scrum is doing well, it doesn't matter if you can't actually retain the ball at the line out. But yeah, listen, as I said, it was a poor performance from Ulster, but it's a win. And, now they're like 4 from 5 this season, which is a great return from them. They've got to keep that going. That line-out will improve over time. And, the handling errors tonight, some of it was down to conditions, but every team kind of start this time of the season, they're not going to be as slick as they're going to be, when we get into kind of the sharper end of the season. So that's something that's going to improve through the season anyway. The Lions, I think they'll be happy to come out with at least a point from this game. They deserved it from that. Again, they were probably the better of the two teams, but they're the better of the two teams without really creating tons of chances either. Like, it wasn't like they're going to be look back at this game and think, oh, there was like 1 or 2 tries that we left out there that could have won it for us. It was more that the performance was better, and they actually took the chances that they had for the most part. But I don't feel like their performance overall, in terms of the amount of chances they created, warranted them to be kind of feeling bad that they didn't get a draw or a win out of it. I think a losing bonus point for them was probably fair. So kind of the final takeaway from this, I think, is, Ulster maybe lucky to get the win, but still it's a win on the board, and they're just going to move on from this, and I'm sure they're going to be much better next time out.